And thank you, Laura, for joining us today. So everyone, Laura's the CEO and co-founder of Memory Matters. They're a incredible CIC based in the Southwest, and they support people living with dementia to thrive in their communities. Memory Matters have a brilliant niche about them. They provide cognitive stimulation therapy. So for those that don't know, that's a NICE accredited and non-drug way of slowing down the progression of mild to moderate dementia. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you.
Hello. Now, Laura, everybody tells me, and we've just sort of touched on it a little bit then, that the elderly can't work technology. But I think you've got a fantastic little story that proves otherwise.
Yeah, so at the height of the pandemic, or it was March 2020, we realised that we would be having to move everything online. So just to sort of back step a minute, just to give you an idea about the services that we provide, they're in community rooms, usually in sort of church halls. So you'd have 8 people in a group and a facilitator, 2 facilitators who lead the group. And the whole point of Memory Matters is that it's fun, you know, coming together socially to have fun. And we do some stuff behind the scenes which helps people think differently and create new connections in the brain. So then let's get to 2020 March and we're thinking, what are we going to do? How on earth do we reach the people that we've been supporting? And we had over 70 people that we were seeing in various places around Cornwall, and the team moved really quickly. So within 2 weeks we had most of our groups online on Zoom sessions. We had no idea how we were going to do it, but actually to start with we just thought, let's just get people connecting again, because we realize how important that is in terms of isolation and the risk of isolation. So the thing that's really interesting, that I find most interesting, is the fact that it was the team actually that were concerned about getting online, and had been, you know, years before when I'd said, I think this could work online. We had this sort of, oh, no, we won't be able to get older people online. It's not going to happen. And it's interesting, this idea of friction versus value. If there's friction, we won't do it. But if the value is higher than the friction, then we'll go on. And this is what happened to our team. So before it was like, oh no, it's too hard, we can't possibly do it. But when we realized that we couldn't see people in their homes or in community rooms, we would have to. The value was far, far greater, and therefore we managed to push ourselves through all the pain that we thought it would take to get people online. And actually, it was a lot easier than we thought it would be. So, sorry, Dan, were you going to ask?
No, I was just going to ask, yeah, how did Memory Matters as an organisation, how did you support your groups to go online?
So what we did is we sort of searched, you know, how are we going to do it? It's the first thing. So we looked at all the different things we could use. We could use Zoom, we could use Teams, Google Meet. And at the time, Gmeet just wasn't up for it. Teams was just too tricky for people to be able to, you know, when you're talking about friction, it was just almost impossible for people to get on. So it had to be Zoom, and that wasn't that easy either at that point. So what we did is we started pulling some instructions together, taking photographs of each step so that we could step people through what to happen. And we spent a long time on the phone. And I think Dana was telling you the story of getting a 90-year-old gentleman, and he was online, and he was so proud because he'd bought these noise cancelling headphones. So he had these noise cancelling headphones on, and I could see him on Zoom, and he was saying, Laura, I can't hear you. And the reason he couldn't hear me was because he had the noise cancelling headphones on and they weren't plugged in. So I was shouting, plug them in, John. But so there were lots of really fun stories in sort of getting people online, but we just kept going and kept trying. And so we got about 80% of the people that we support online during that time, whilst other organisations, including the NHS, were saying, no, it's not possible. There's too much red tape. We can't do it. So I think we did prove that if you sit beside people and teach them how to do it and reduce that friction, increase the value, then people will do it.
So it's probably safe to say that Memory Matters became digital carers during this time. What would you say the positive impacts of being a carer digitally are?
So I think it's that if you're willing to overcome what we see as a barrier for someone else, then there's a lot that you gain from that. So I think, it's very easy for us to say that's too hard, I'm not going to do it. But if we're doing it for somebody else, if we're seeing that that person is going to gain value from it, then that gives you, I guess, as the digital carer, that feeling of, well, I've helped them, I've got them, connected, I've reduced their isolation, or whatever it is from the tech that they're using, the value that they'll get from it.
And you just touched on isolation there. What would you say, like being isolated, and especially during the pandemic, that was such a big thing. What can that do to your health?
So I think, that's probably one of the biggest drivers for us. Is isolation is the equivalent of smoking 60 cigarettes a day in terms of health. So we could not have our beneficiaries being isolated for that long amount of time during lockdown. So we know that that isolation is. I've got a quote here that it's like the fertilizer of disease, basically, isolation. We know that we get worse when we're isolated, and it has a biological effect as well on us. And
what would you say the importance of what you've done for the elder generation, obviously on this subject alone, but what's the importance of them staying connected?
Really, really important. And I think particularly when we're talking about dementia as well. So we know that we're hardwired as humans to be with other humans. It's really important for our health. And the opposite of that, of course, is isolation. So really important. And I think as you get older, your risk of isolation increases and increases. And we never expect to be isolated, but it happens. And it happens to some of us overnight, the loss of a partner or the loss of a network. So it's incredibly important.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I mean, I know a little story as well. I believe there was a woman, they celebrated her 100th birthday online with Memory Matters as well?
Yeah, she absolutely did. And it was amazing. And she was totally isolated, living alone. So being able to give her a birthday party online was something else.
Fantastic. Yeah, you've disproved that the elderly can't work technology, that's for sure.
Totally can. We just have to get over our own barriers very often.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Laura. I mean, just to sum up there, I mean, you've answered it yourself, but I think you've proven that being a digital carer can be a massive success.